Hello everyone, welcome to Blender where I am constructing the Akira class vessel. Kind of picking up where we left off, I have done a little bit of work, and a lot of that work between the last episode and this episode is primarily with trying to figure out what is the next step. If y'all remember, I was discussing in a previous episode that I've kind of made the decision of there it is, that I'm going to make it, where this particular model does have the saucer separation ability in it. And I've kind of showed y'all that the saucer separation would basically be looking like that. So, except for, there, of course, there is the bridge module. There we go. The bridge module, and then you would have a secondary area with oops, there we go. With the saucer section that would be able to fly away. So I've been trying to figure out exactly how I want to first make it look like, and B, try to approach it. At first I was thinking about, I could just simply just go ahead and use this and do a Boolean operation to kind of separate, and I could show y'all what that would look like if I go into here, go into add modifier, go into Boolean, which is right here. Let's click on the little dropper, select the pylon area, and we got to tell it to do a difference. We only want it to do the difference. And now if I click on and move that, we can see what that would look like. So I was thinking about just simply just doing that, and later on put in the saucer, or not the saucer, but put in the secondary bridge for the saucer section and call it a day. However, though, looking at it, there's this little bit of this kind of caves in just a little bit. I mean, it kind of slopes in. I don't know if y'all could see it, but you can see it better if I go ahead and pull this up. If we look at this straight ahead, uh, the saucer section joins in right about there to these pylons. So you have this slope that keeps going in. So the ship, if the saucer section is right there and we draw a straight line, you have a pretty good portion of the ship that's going to get caught on the saucer section. So then I'm going through, and that means I'm going to have to remodel all of this to make it smooth. But if I'm going to go ahead and remodel this, I might as well go ahead and look at the entire bottom portion of this to figure out if there is anything that I want to remodel and just take care of it all in one go. So I'm probably going to wait off on that to try to think about what I want to do. I mean, I have ideas, but if I'm also going to do that Boolean modifier separation, I need to go ahead and probably put any details that need to be cut out of the saucer section onto the bottom of this pylon section, such as, for example, I was planning on putting a phaser strip, an underslung phaser strip, right about here. So there is a separation, there is at least one phaser bank, forward-facing phaser bank on this ship that can be used to fire if torpedoes, for whatever reason, stop working or what have you. So I'm going to have to put all those little details in, and then I can go ahead and do the Boolean modifier on the bottom. But then if I do that, do I want, so really, it's just kind of a touch and go about what I want to do. But that's not what we're working on today. We are working on the saucer section. Let me go ahead and remove this modifier. We don't need it right now because what I'm working on currently now is these little extra hull details. I don't know if y'all can see it right there. We'll actually go into edit mode. You should be able to, whoops, wrong one. Let's select this. There we go. If we go in edit mode, I'm working on these little hull details. If we go into a top view, whoops, let's go into top view over here. Those hull details that I'm talking about is these little raised panels right here. Once again, this doesn't, I think I mentioned this in the last episode, is that this doesn't seem like it follows the standard design of where there is the Aztec hull plating, but there are hull plates on the Akira class vessel. It seems like this is pretty standard almost to all the newer vessels. And there might be some hull plating that I'll probably put in the Aztec hull plating that I might put into the texture, because the Sovereign actually has designs similar to this in its hull, but I think it still has the Aztec hull plating, but it's not as prominent as you see, let's say, like the Enterprise D. So that's what I've been doing. But I've decided to do a different process this time than what I did before. If y'all remember what I did before, like on the pylons and all these little details, is I would go into edit mode. What I would do is I would, press K, and I would go in and I would knife cut. So here, and I would travel that down to there and bring that down to here. You know, real dirty, just kind of do that, boom, and cut that out and extrude it. However, though, with this particular set of areas, I decided to try something a little bit different that actually, to me, gives me a little bit of a better result and a lot more control. Now, what I do here is, let me go ahead and bring this into the right, is I go ahead and I place my cursor right where I want it, and I'm going to do a Shift A, and I'm going to give myself a plane. Scale that down, bring that up just a little bit. Now, once I get here, I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to now start moving these points around just to give me the basic shape that I'm looking for. Actually, we should be more right there on this particular one. Okay, so that's the basic shape. Now I'm going to do Control R, add in a couple of extra, add in one more, couple of extra cuts into it, because this here is actually supposed to be slightly curved. So let's go ahead and kind of give this a bit of a curve. All right, so now I got this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that face, click on the actual hull that, or the mesh that I'm wanting to modify. I'm going to go into edit mode. Now I'm going to click over here on that little plus sign, expand the mesh tools. I'm going to do this, what's called knife project. Now, a couple little things with the knife project is that it is dependent on, well, first of all, let me tell you what the knife project does. Is that what it does is that in Blender, it knows that I've already selected that mesh. You can see right there, that little dot right there is showing me that that mesh is indeed selected. Here's the dot for the mesh that I'm working on. Here is the dots for the mesh that I've selected. So it took that and it's going to say, okay, you want to cut using a knife a little path inside this mesh that will match the shape of this mesh here. So I click on that and it'll do the job automatically for me. And it'll do it a lot cleaner because I got all the curves and edges and stuff that I want in that plane. However, though, you've got to be very careful when you do this because it is very dependent on the view. What I mean by is if I was to move this view like this and do knife project, it cuts it based on that view. So it looks good, but then when I move it, say back to the top, here's the mesh that I was supposed to cut. You can see it's in line with that hull plate. Well, here it's not in line with the hull plate anymore. That is because it is very dependent on the view that I'm in. And it has to be the view. I don't know if it's active view, which means I can move this over here and then it'll cut it. I think it's the view of where I click on knife project. So I want to make sure that I have this, facing where I want it to face. So from the top, I want to cut from the top and have this mesh tools open up, and I'm going to click on knife project, and there it goes. Let's go ahead, and I'm moving all of mine over to here. I think that's where I have it all. Nope, that's not it. I bet you I got it over here. Yeah, I'm moving all, there we go. I'm moving all the meshes that I'm cutting over to there. So let's go back over to here, and if we go into edit mode, now it cut that mesh just where I wanted it. So now I can go in and go into vertices, and if I want to do any kind of cleaning up, I can go ahead and do some cleaning up. But for right now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to select all the faces that are, whoops, not that one. Okay, yeah, there is a bit of a mesh right there. Let me go ahead and fix this because this kind of annoys me a little bit. Oops, no, not that. On that, click on that. There we go. I don't think there's anything else. Let's go into face mode. Looks like everything else is okay. So now I go in here and I just start selecting all the faces that I want. Oops, nope, not that one. And it just seems like this gives me a lot better results. So you learn something new every day. I kind of learned this on a different project that I was working on where I needed to, I had this design that I wanted to kind of cut into it. So I just simply just Googled, cut design using mesh and found a tutorial that showed me how to do that. So this is what I'm going to be doing right now. So I'm going to do extrude 0.002. So it extrudes it by that much up. And voila, there we go. So I'm going to be doing that for the rest of the ship. And let's go ahead and kind of go into a rendered mode and see how that looks. See if I could find something with, okay, yeah, I'm also starting to work on the impulse engines that are on the, oops, nope, that's not it. There we go. That might be a little bit too much. I think I got another light source. There we go. Okay, it's probably about time for me to restart my computer. It looks like it's starting to lag just a little bit. So I might probably do that when I cut out here in just a second. But yeah, it seems like you can definitely see it here, and that's kind of getting the effect that I want. Uh, I'm pretty sure that once I go in and probably, actually, no, that's pretty much exactly what I kind of want. So I'll be doing that all across the top of the hull, and that will give me the hull plate details that I'm looking for. I could probably, let's go ahead and give this a different, oh, I don't have I thought I already assigned this. So let's go ahead and give it a light hull texture. There we go. So now it's all the same hull color. So yeah, so I'm going to be doing that real quick. And instead of doing that on camera, I'm going to go ahead and cut out real quick and take care of all of this. When I get back, I'll have at least a good majority, if not all the hull plates put in, and then we'll move on to our next portion. So I'll be right back. And everybody, I am, for the most part, probably about, let's say, 90% done with all the little hull details on the top of the ship. Let's kind of go into a render mode and take a closer look at it here. And there it goes. Now I used kind of a hybrid of the two methods that I saw. Well, actually, no, not technically hybrid, but actually both two different ways of doing this. And for some reason, there was a greater area selected there that should have been. Let's fix that real quick. I did use the method that I showed y'all earlier where I did a mesh on the top and solid here. Go. Okay, I see what I need. But I also went ahead and used kind of a knife version take on it where I just went ahead and went from the top, did a K, select all the vertices, press K, and I kind of cut in with the knife. So it kind of worked. It kind of works either way. So it's basically which preference is to you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I know I did it before where, say if I go to the top, say if I want to cut out an area here, I just go to A, press K, and I just kind of go in with a knife like that, press enter. It cuts the vertices and I can go through and move it around to adjust any vertices that I didn't quite have set up properly. So, whichever way works for you, there's just, both of them works for me. It just depends on what area of the mesh I was working on. Some areas it worked great with the method that I showed y'all earlier. Well, no, I don't want you. There we go. Let's do this. There we go. And in other areas, it was the knife method. So try both ways and see which way works for you. So, but do this real quick. If I don't do it now, I'll probably forget about it. And I'll look at the next episode and I'll think, oh, well, I need to take care of that. And I won't take care of it then. And then, yeah, I'll just keep getting distracted and distracted, and then eventually I'll probably end up releasing the ship, be finished with the ships, quote unquote finished, without having all of this done. It probably wouldn't be that big of a deal because I'm going to be putting in textures on the whole thing, so that's going to override a lot of this, but I just wanted to put that in there just to kind of help me give a better look. So, but it looks out, it's pretty nice. So I've once again said I think about 90% done, or at least on the top portion. I'm good enough to the point where I'm going to say I'm going to go ahead and start working on the windows. And for the windows on this, I'll still be using the same method that I used here, where I will be modeling individual windows and doing the Boolean modifier to cut out all the windows along the hull. You could probably also notice I took care of a couple of other little details, such as I started working on uh, the front shuttle access area. This ship is primarily designed to be kind of a shuttle carrier, apparently, as well as a photon torpedo platform, with once again the primary weapon being the photon torpedoes, because it has a lot of them, but it's also a shuttle carrier. And there was not only the shuttle access doors from the back, but there were also shuttle access doors from the front, which were these three little holes right here. And it's it's speculated that it's almost kind of a fly through, where once you go inside, all the way there's an open space for shuttle access all the way around, so you can have shuttles or attack fighters launch out from the front, and then they could come back in from the back from behind the ship. That's the speculation. So I'm not going to be designing the interior of the ship, so that doesn't really bother me at this particular point. But did that, and also did some photon torpedo launchers on the side. Now the back portion, I'm gonna have to think about what I want to do with this, because apparently, let's see if I can see it from the back here. Yeah, we can. I cut those out wrong. These are much taller than what they should be. The line, as you can see, this should be following is actually, this line here should actually be here. So I need to be, actually, that's pretty accurate right there, but it's much taller than what it should be. So I need to be thinking about, do I want to try to fix that, or do I want to go with it? I don't know, and I'll figure that out eventually. But for right now, to kind of finish up this episode, I'm going to be working on the phaser strips, or at least the phaser strips on the top portion. Now, there's several different ways we can do this, but I'm going to show you my method, or at least my preferred method. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and go into a top mode, where I can see the, the outline of where the phaser strip is at. And I'm going to bring this into the front. Now, for this purpose, I really don't need to have oops, one, is that what I'm looking for? Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. We go to remove the background images just temporarily. So first off, I need to go ahead and design the profile of the phaser strip. Now, there are several different ways or that you can model the phaser strip, several different ways that people like it. Now, first off, if you look at let's do a Shift A and add in a cube. Just right now, scale that down. Yes, no, maybe. There it goes. Okay. Now, if you look at the technical manual, the Star Trek Next Generation technical manual, and it describes on how the phaser strip is supposed to look like. The first method or the first description that it gives is that it's kind of a very big fat Y with a trapezoidal top to it. And the cross section that it shows actually looks something more along the lines of, this, right? Okay, see, am I working on both sides? Yes, I am. Kind of looks more along the lines of this right here. It's actually that there, there, more like that right there. Oh, actually, yeah, we could go ahead and move that part in. Let's go ahead and do. So that's a very basic shape of it. So, and this is usually tend to be the type of look that I usually go for. Some of it because I'm a little bit lazy and I don't want to model it, because especially when you consider about, how long the strip is and how many vertices you got to, to put into it to get the nice little curve into it, it's going to really kind of beef up your poly count of your model. But if you're going for a real high poly count model to begin with, then it really doesn't matter. And so you can go ahead and go with other methods or other looks. Another look that I've also have seen people do tends to kind of almost follow this. Whoops. It's somewhat of a similar look, except they tend to kind of have a hollow little area right here. Actually, you know what? There's a better way. Let's go ahead and do Control R. There we go. Let's actually, these tend to be scaled out. Whoops. Even further. And then right here, they tend to kind of have extrusion points. So it tends to kind of look like this. Let's go ahead and we can delete those. Whoops. No, we don't want to delete the vertices. We want to delete the edges. There. Delete. Edges. There. Then I can go in and I could do a lot more changes, a little cleanup, but it tends to kind of look like that where there's a hollow out area. And this does tend to kind of fit with what we see definitely on the Voyager and in some shots of the Enterprise D. I think it's some of the later shots of the phaser ship on the Enterprise D. This is what you tend to kind of see. Um, and this could probably work as well. Another version, though, I mean, well, there's like once again, there's several different interpretations of how the phaser bank looks. Is it's kind of what we just did right there, except they tend to. Let's go. Let's go back into the front. Tell you what, let's do it this way. I'm going to go there. Let's go ahead, extrude those down again. I don't know why that's not. See, I'm just doing this real quick and dirty here because I don't want to really go too far into talking about all the different phaser strips and all that kind of stuff. See, if we do that and we delete that edge, delete this edge here, so you get that look that we mentioned in the last one. But then you go into it further, and you know what? Since I'm already designing it this way, I might as well go ahead and continue it this way. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do it on this side here. Go to another extrusion. Scale that up just a little bit. Extrude out like that. So you get these little areas in between. So you have, basically it's like you have a block of an emitter. So you have, and this is also kind of, you might see on the Star Trek technical manuals that they'll have a phase emitter here, phase emitter here, phase emitter here, or phase emitter inside here, phase emitter here, phase emitter here. So there's three phase emitters, and each one of those phase emitters put together equals a phaser bank. And then between there are these little fins in between each set of bank. In the originally on the Enterprise E, and what you see on this model here, you don't see such details like that, but these little, this is just bank, 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 bank. So it's several banks after one after the other. But here you have these things that separate each individual bank. So, and I've seen some people do a lot of this or variations of this to where you see a lip, then a bank, and then a lip, and then a bank. For right now, let's go ahead and just keep it at that. And I'm also going to go ahead and let's delete these two vertices and these two edges because we're not going to really, whoops, we're not going to really need these right now. for right now, I'm going to go ahead, once again, keep this as is. Let's go ahead and do the same thing over here. Delete those vertices, delete these edges. But so once again, the important part is, or the important thing is not how you want to draw your phaser banks. No, siree, that's not it. That's not what we're wanting to do here. So let's say I got the phaser bank drawn out just the way I want it, right there. Now what I want to do is, let's go ahead and, since I have the phaser bank drawn right there, I want to go ahead and keep my cursor right there. I don't want to move it around, and I want to do a Shift A. I want to add in a curve. Now you can do a Bezier, circle, it nerves, anything. But I'm going to put in a path. So we're going to put in a path. Now I'm going to go into edit mode here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this down. We're going to put this center line right along. Now I go through, I grab each one of these points and I manipulate them. You see this little line here where these arrows are at? That is the curvature of the path. And those arrows show you which direction it goes. And what we're going to do here is we're going to get it to where, let's go ahead and move that there, move this over, is we're going to duplicate this vertex that you see here, or this mesh that you see here, along this path. So it's going to keep duplicating and duplicating and duplicating. And which way it duplicates it is going to be along this path here. So let's go ahead. So once again, do some manipulation. Try to get it to where that path is staying pretty much along the center line of where those go. Okay. It's not one to work with. Okay. All right, just for a real quick and dirty look, we're just leave it like that. So I got the paths all set up just the way that I want it. Actually, probably needs to be, see, like that and that. Okay, there we go. I think I'm happy with that. And I can go in and play with it some more. You'll see, and I can actually go in and like go here and here. And if we do a curve, I can go ahead and uh, subdivide it if I wanted to. Let's see, which I think we go into, is it curve? Let's see, segment, subdivide. And I can go in and I can subdivide, add in other little vertices here, so I can get a lot more control over it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and go over here. Same thing over here. Oops. So I must have extruded something. Let's go ahead, control, whoops. These segments, subdivide to there, going to there. See, you can, like I said, really kind of play around with this all day long, but for the sake of time, not going to be able to do that today. Do that off screen, but anyways, okay, so I got it to where I'm happy with it. Now, let's go back into object mode. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, or actually, no, select this right here, the model of the phaser strip. And I'm going to go in and add in a modifier, and I want to do an array and a curve. So I'm going to do an array modifier, and I want to, okay, and this right here this is what's going to cause it to separate. But I need to, if I go ahead and I go like this, and see, it's just going straight. So what I need to do is I need to also add in a curve modifier. So let's collapse that down. I click on this little object here, and until that goes along a nerve path. And as you can see here, now it is duplicating. Whoops, where's it? Oh, there it is. It's duplicating that phaser strip along that path. Now, as you can see, it's not quite facing in the right direction, but we can fix that by going to edit mode. And let's go ahead and rotate that 90 degrees. So go back in object mode and now it replicates it. So now I can just move this number up until it gets to the ends of the path, and voila, there we go. Instant phaser strip. Now once I get it to where it looks the way that I want it to look, now I'll need to kind of go in just a little bit and no, actually that other side I probably need to work it out more. Um, yeah, there's a little bit of space there, and I could fix that just by once again going to edit mode and extruding along that line. Yeah, I could. Well, we can go in and edit, so I could change this as much as I want to get rid of that. Once again, just go into edit mode, and what I could do is take this piece here and scale it down to where it'll match up to this. So I could just do this here. Let's go ahead and do it real quick just to show y'all. If I select all of these vertices, let's go into a top mode, extrude, G, whoops, no, I don't want to extrude. I want to duplicate that. Did I select an, yeah, select a vertex, I don't want it. View, top, mesh, let's see, 1, 2, oh, I forgot how to duplicate. How do I duplicate these? Shift D, yeah, there we go, Shift D, move these over to here. Let's go ahead and, oops, excuse me, scale X, 0, boom, there we go. Then I go in, select all of these, and just add in the faces, and that will kind of fill that in. So y'all see what I'm doing here. Y'all see what I'm doing here. So I go back into object mode, it'll fix it up and it'll merge everything. So when I apply these, once I'm happy with the phaser strip and I apply it, then it will turn this entire thing into one individual mesh that I can manipulate. But until then, I can go ahead and work on it. So if I go, let's say, into the front, well, it's too high. Let's go ahead and select that and drop it down, kind of embed it right there into the ship. And it looks like that there is a curvature of the ship going on here that doesn't quite work for me. So I could go in and kind of, once again, manipulate this curve here to get it to fit better. Or if I want it to where the phaser strips are not pointed straight up, but kind of angled out a little bit. Once again, I can just select on that, go into edit mode. Let's go ahead and rotate it. Let's see, rotate it along the x-axis. See how that looks. Whoops, wrong way. Rotate X. Let's go the other way. And I can get it rotated to where it faces the way that I want it to face. So there we go. So that's how we're going to do the phaser strips. I just tweak it, model it, change this strip to make it look the way that I want it to look like until I'm happy with it. As you can see, it says intersecting in a couple little areas here. So manipulate this to manipulate the curve to get that all fixed. So I can go into here, let's go into the top. I need to probably shrink this. Let's go ahead and shrink this whole thing. Edit, let's see, scale, there. Now if I'm shrinking it, it's going to also shrink it in there. So might have to go in and add in, yep, we're got to go in and add in a couple of more counts. Go. And voila, so just play around, mess around with it, get it to where we want it. And then once I get done with it, just apply it and add in some end caps and I am done. And what I can also do is just, and what I could do is I could lay down even more of these, so just duplicate that one mesh and lay down more of these here and just duplicate it all across the ship for the bottom section and everything like that. So Well, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and call this episode quits for right now. Let's go ahead and move some of these to a different layer for right now, just for a bit of housekeeping, you might say. There we go. Let's go ahead and bring that back in. But, um, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and finish that. Now, off camera for the next episode, I'm going to add in the windows into the secondary or into the saucer section of the primary hull, and start working on the bottom portion of the hull to try to get where this and this will be blended together into one mesh and make it look clean and clean up the top portion. I need to start working on the back and figure out what I want to do. Do I want to leave this back area here alone as is, or do I want to go ahead and try to fix it to get it to where it's at the height that it's supposed to be? Where it's supposed to be, you know, I have it where it's just much too taller back there. Do I want to work with it or do I want to fix it? I haven't quite decided on that. I've also have been debating is that, on this, do I want to go in and put in some additional phaser banks and maybe call this like a refit version or a slight modified version of the Akira class that where they give it more uh, phaser banks? Because so far as all I can see, the phaser banks are only on the saucer section. So if you lose a saucer section, you don't have the secondary area doesn't have any phaser banks, except for a phaser bank that I'm definitely going to be putting on the bottom portion of the catamaran style hulls but it's only available when it separates. If I do that, I might be putting the phaser strips, additional phaser strips right back here on each one of these pylons at the top and the bottom section as well. And maybe, just maybe, right along here on each one of these nacelles, kind of reminiscent to the Galaxy classes, to where it's not on the Enterprise D, but if you see some of the newer Galaxy class vessels, they had additional phaser strips placed on the nacelles. So it wouldn't be that hard to believe that they would go in and place additional phaser strips on the ship. Um, but let me know what y'all probably think about it. But until then, I just want to say thank y'all for watching. Leave any comments, questions, or feedback. I said really love hearing from all of y'all. And until then, I will take care, and I will see you in the next episode.